Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to go ahead and start doing our Photoshop work. And as you can see here, I'm just bringing a JPEG image from the denim texture just to go ahead and grab the seam for the model. And I'm just going to go ahead and basically scale it down. I mean, this is going to take a little bit of time, probably a good hour and a half to go ahead and texture the model here. It's just a lot of Photoshop editing. There's no real trick to Photoshop texturing. It's just, you want to have decent UVs, good UVs to go ahead and lay the textures on top of. And other than that, using the liquify tool and the scale tool and the rotate tool, and basically that's it. It just takes time. It's really, in the end, that's really all it is. It's just a lot of time, a lot of editing, a lot of changing this, changing that. Trying to fix this, trying to fix that, and a lot of skipping between Photoshop and Maya and checking to see what works and what doesn't work. I mean, this definitely isn't a tutorial to teach you on how to use Photoshop. This is basically to teach you how to go ahead and texture the model, and all it really is for me is just collaging a bunch of photos together to try and make the textures of what I want them to be. As you can see, I just rotated the denim seam there into position for the one side, and I'm going to go ahead and do it here for the other side. Definitely not a Photoshop master, so it does take me a little bit of time to do the textures in Photoshop, but with that bake from Maya, you get a real good start in terms of getting your base done quickly and getting ready to texture. But like I said, Photoshop, doing a lot of it in Photoshop, it just takes a lot of time. There's definitely faster ways to go ahead and do it with ZBrush or some other applications, but for this, I'm just going to go ahead and use Photoshop, and it's really important to actually learn Photoshop in a decent way so that you can do textures in Photoshop, because doing textures in another application, it's sort of the same, but Photoshop's very imperative to CG. It's so valuable. And as you can see, I'm just using the liquify tool here to move the seams into position. As you can see, my brush size is fairly large, and the brush density is fairly low. Like if you warp the texture, it's gonna it has a tendency to blur the pixels and blur the texture. But when you use the liquify tool, it basically is warping it in a better way. It's not gonna blur your pixels or blur your image. And as you can see, it's real quick there to go ahead and move stuff into position. And with our initial shader creation and an earlier taught, we can basically just save this out as a JPEG as in our source image folder and just re-update the textures as we go along in Maya, and that saves a lot of time from having to recreate shaders or recreate the textures, re-bring in the texture maps. It's just simply reload it, and you can see what needs changed pretty much on the fly. And as you can see, I just jumped back into Maya here, and I'm going to reload the texture and see how it looks. And boom, there you go. There's the updated texture, and that looks okay, but it definitely needs a lot of editing. And I just continue to edit through Photoshop as I go along. Continue to look at the model. As you can see, I'm constantly spinning around the model to see how the texture looks. can see I'm, using hue and saturation to try to get the texture to match a little bit more properly. I'm always adjusting, the brightness and the contrast, and always, messing with the levels to try to match it as much as I possibly can. This is definitely the worst part of character creation, character modeling. It's the texturing part, because, for me, I don't want to say I can't stand it. It's such a time-consuming process, because if you have a good model, but you have bad textures, then your model doesn't look right. The key is you want to have good textures, you want to have, good normal maps applied, good colors into the character, and that's really gonna, in a good render, and that's really what's gonna make your characters, pop off the page, basically. And as you can see, just continually doing it in Photoshop, basically messing in Photoshop and trying to make it look proper and make it look right. I start out with the jeans because it's definitely the main part of the model. That and the skin are such a huge part of the model that you want to get it to be convincing. This photo of a pair of jeans is basically just a picture I took of my own jeans to get the fly, and that way I get a very high resolution image to go ahead and edit and basically lay on top of the character. And this is just basically, a lot of hue and a lot of saturation changes and fixing to go ahead and try and match it as good as I possibly can, or as close as I possibly can. It may look easy, or I may, make the texturing look easy, but it definitely isn't easy. This is just one of those things that the more you do, the better you're eventually going to get. As you can see, I'm erasing a lot of the fly texture there, just the outside parts, because I don't really want that part of the denim to be on the denim, because it doesn't match properly. So I just want the fly, and then I can just edit around it. As you can see, with a little bit of editing with the hue and saturation, you can tend to match it pretty well. Well, like I said, it's just time consuming, and it's just try this, and if it doesn't work, try something else, and if that doesn't work, try something else. see I'm constantly adjusting levels, brightness, the contrast, just to try and match it as close as I can. I'm constantly saving and updating the texture, and constantly looking to see what it looks like in Maya. As you can see, it has to get adjusted more there. As you can see, I'm using the liquify tool here to adjust it, and it's easier to use the liquify tool than it is the the warp tool. The warp tool tends to, blur your pixels and distort it really bad, so the liquify tool is just a much better solution. And as you can see, I'm renaming in Photoshop here so that I keep pretty much organized for the model here. The denim textures here I actually found on Google, through Google. I'll be including those in the tutorial, along with the tutorial. It's about 300 megabytes of denim textures that I tend to use on, anything that requires denim. I tend to use that sort of denim textures, or those denim textures, because they're high resolution and they're really good quality.